Now, our customer types are printers, agencies, web developers. We have a lot of brand owners out there buying us because all those different types of customers look at our product as a way in order to solve a problem. I would like to create communication and collaboration between my users, whether that printer is themselves and the end user, the brand owners, the marketing team and their subsidiaries. The web developer is looking to create and modify products online. All those have found uses in the Chili product. And our sales strategy has really been to those solution providers, somebody looking to create a larger set of tools. But we've also done integration and OEM partnerships where people out there providing complete solutions to customers and brands would like to use Chili as an editor and involve that in their creative process and their workflow to put together a complete solution. Now, some samples of our customers, PepsiCo's of the world, the large brands, Quad Graphics, big production houses, agencies, etc. All people, again, looking to find needs for production, find needs for collaboration inside of their workflow. And we really have pushed ourselves worldwide. We have about 400 licenses across the world. Over half of those are here based in the United States. A large portion also based in Belgium, our home country, but we are spreading out. These numbers are adjusting by the month. You can see this is over about a year and a half to 2 years old at this point. We have actually increased our presence in the Asian market much better since then. So really growing our market day by day and really month by month. We sell through channels, and actually we have a channel partner here on the call today, Alan Dixon from the UK world with Workflowz. We sell through distribution partners, so we don't actually sell directly as Chili. We do some direct relationships, but for the most part, we sell our product in relation and in response to other solutions. So if you're interested in finding out who your local rep is or who your local distributor is, please reach out to Chili and we'll make sure to connect you with them in order to start that relationship. We also have some partnerships that are out there in the world. Few companies, few big partners have looked at us as an OEM solution. So, for example, XMPie views Chili as an alternative to their internal solution. So we have built plugins and integrations in with some of these big products, North Plains, which is a dam solution, an easy integration between those two products, Magento, storefront solution using Chili inside Magento as the de facto editor. All these different solutions where users might have invested in products in advance like PageFlex or WooCommerce and are finding the need to have Chili to be that editor within that solution. So we've done our best to reach out as a component editor or an implementation piece in that solution. And that's the way that we pushed our partnerships out in the market. Now let's look at the product itself. So what is the Chili Publisher? What is the product that we're looking to sell? Well, the Chili Publisher is a powerful and flexible online document editor. It's a tool that's used for editing and collaboration, but it's embedded into production workflows. So it's not a tool that needs to be downloaded as a piece of software, an application on a computer. It's actually embedded into that workflow seamlessly. And in many ways, a lot of our users will use Chili without their end users even knowing that Chili is present. Now, we're not a SaaS product. We don't store or manage data in the cloud. We're an actual local installation. So for a lot of the people that we work with and partnerships, these people actually host Chili within their own server. And that kind of helps with security printing or safety and security concerns where we can put our application inside your own firewall. So easy piece to be installed. Now it's integrated either by an integration team or by yourself. Chili can't stand alone. It needs a container. It needs a storefront or workflow in order to power it. But once that editor is up and running, we can deliver that editor inside an iframe. That editor experience can be highly customized. We can make it look and feel exactly like your end user needs to see it. We understand not all users are created equal. Some of them are designers, some of them are just basic orderers. They don't need a complete design tool. Well, in that case, we can really cater and push this editor to look and feel exactly like the experience needs to be. For example, if I just need to order a business card for my boss, all I need to do is to update the name and phone number, maybe a logo. It's the easiest thing we can do, so we can really cater these templates down to their final needs. But from a publishing standpoint, if they need a complete editing tool, we can really create that experience as well. Now, I really like this slide when it comes to showing where Chili fits into the broader network and the broader scheme. If you see where that editor sits right in the middle, it's kind of in between the process, but we're not replacing any of the pieces that you have currently. For example, you can still log into your website the same way that you do. That's all the same. And in fact, we don't touch your user structure or your pricing structure, or your shopping cart structure. You actually just build Chili into the process where, after somebody chooses a product that they'd like to order, then we can spin up an editor, allow them to edit that product. And then once that editing is done, push that PDF back into production and actually run that PDF through pre-flight process, etc., of your own tools, because Chili, again, is just the editor within that process. Now we take a look at the components of Chili and how we create templates and how we kind of put these elements together. For starters, we have a few different ways to create what we call a Chili template. A Chili template is created either from InDesign or Illustrator. Now, Chili provides a converter for InDesign in order to take your InDesign files locally off your computer, convert them into a Chili document, and then start to use them within your application. Now that conversion process is as close to one-to-one as we can. It's because we write XML in the same way that InDesign writes XML. We're about 97% compatible between what InDesign can do from a complete feature standpoint and what Chili can present on screen. Now, from an Illustrator standpoint, we can convert AI files into Chili. That's done through a tool sold by Esco. And Esco's put together a converter that allows you to take vector-based files or Illustrator-based files and convert them into Chili too. So if you're interested in that plugin and that conversion, please let us know and we can connect you with your local Esco rep in order to find out what that tool might provide to you. We can also use Chili directly to create templates, so we don't need an input process. We don't need art files to start from. We can actually use Chili just like it is InDesign and actually go in and create files for ourselves. So definitely a possibility if we need to. Now, the other step would be taking a PDF and layering information on top of it. So the ability to take static PDF, create info to go on top or on different layers and so on. So that definitely is an asset we can use. And we even have some users writing XML on the fly. Some users are actually taking their local information, generating XML because our files are in XML, and then writing templates on the go. Now, once those templates exist, we can now post them in what's called the back office. That is your window into your own Chili server. And that's where you manage your templates, your fonts, your images, all your assets, etc. So once you have those assets on your server, you can then take your templates, you can add business logic to them, that'd be actions or any kind of structure that you'd like to make for variables and so on, directly into the templates. And once those templates are finalized, we can create what's called a workspace. And that's going to be your user interface that we can design per template per user. So you can make each template look and feel the way that you need to by combining and really defining that workspace as you go. Now, the back office is the tool that speaks to your external system. So your workflow or your shopping cart is going to be what speaks to the back office back and forth through the API. It's RESTful SOAP calls that we can make, communicating between the two servers, and we can deliver Chili to the end user either in Flash or HTML5. So either one of those two. Now, we're really pushing HTML5, especially when it comes to our 5.0 release. And at this point right now, even before our 5.0 release, our editor is complete. We're finishing up our workspaces, and I'll show you what that new workspace as a kind of a demo purpose is going to look like today. But our HTML5 editor is up and running and being in use in many of our customers right now. Now, from an output perspective, once files are done, that output can be a print-ready PDF, can be images, can be HTML code if we need to. In some ways, it's unstructured HTML, XML, and then if we need to, back to Adobe InDesign or Illustrator, so IDML files, etc. All right, we have a few questions. I'll answer those before we go into the demo. First question is V5 already launched? The question is, no, we haven't launched V5 yet. We're at 4.7, which is a complete release of the HTML editor, but not the HTML workspaces. So two different components that we're looking to launch there, but our 4.7 editor is about as close to that HTML editor as we can get. And then the rest, now we're planning on trying to get 5.0 out early this year, hopefully before April. So as we go, we plan on a lot of releases before then. So if you're an existing customer, keep your release as updated as possible. Make sure you see release notes as they go out the door, and you can see those. Second question is, how do you input from Illustrator? I only know the InDesign has a plugin. Well, Esco sells a tool called Dynamic Art, and Dynamic Art will allow you to convert an Illustrator file into a Chili package, and then you can import that into Chili. So Dynamic Art does have the ability. Now, it's not as complete of a conversion as InDesign, but it does give you a static piece to start from. I'm not going to be doing a demo on the dynamic art portion today, but if you'd like more information about it, we can. That tool was initially built to work with Web Center. So from an ESCO standpoint, they do sell it alone, but they also sell it as a component for Web Center. But in reality, it can be used to convert Illustrator files into Chili files. Stephen asks, when you export from InDesign, how accurate is the exportation? Well, I'll show you an example of it later. I'd say it's 97%. The reason I'm so specific and so open about it is because from InDesign standpoint, we can build about 90% of what they do into Chili. Every frame is going to be transported over, every layer is going to be transported over, every image, every font, every aspect. The things that we can't translate are kind of high processing features of InDesign. For example, InDesign provides both optical and metric kerning. Well, optical kerning is a continual process, kind of calculation of kerning on type. We've just not translated that over because we view that as a high processing calculation and something we don't want to translate to Chili. So from a basic standpoint, we give you all the elements in order to create. Sure, Stephen asked, when you go from Chili back to InDesign, how accurate it is. Well, if you go backwards, it's an IDML file. So we're outputting, a generic template for InDesign. I would say it has your images and your fonts in place, but it is a simplification of the file. I can't be kind of more exact than that. I could give you a list of all the things that we don't translate over. In Chili, we have a feature of variables. Those variables don't carry over when we get back into InDesign. We have to flatten our artwork and keep it a little bit more straightforward and simple. But Stephen, if you have a particular application or sample you'd like to see, just provide us with an InDesign file. We can convert it from Chili back to InDesign, and you can see how those two files translate over. All right, so good questions, guys. Thanks for asking those. Hopefully I gave you guys some good answers to start. And let's now go into the demo. So access for everybody after the presentation today. We have a website called The Beer Company. This is our demo portal for customers like yourself to look at, to test it around. This can be for current customers or new customers, anybody just looking to get inspiration or kind of see what's the newest, latest, and greatest about Chili. For those of you who have not seen the Spicy Beer Company before, this is a sample application for Chili. So it's showing off what Chili can do. It's giving an example of an e-commerce platform that utilizes Chili on the back end. So it's showing off, a website that's going to utilize Chili to power it. And what you're going to see right now on screen is not Chili. Again, it's the website that we're looking to put together, but it has Chili as its integration. You can see that Chili is being used to create maybe these thumbnails on the page. But really, from an integration standpoint, I don't really call on Chili or utilize Chili until I find a product that I'd like to edit. Since we are only the editor, that's the portion of the process that we take on best. So in this case, I might look for a product like a business card, be looking to edit that for myself. And when I click on this product, that's when I'm making a call to the Chili server. I'm asking for a particular template. It's giving it back to me as a URL. We're going to post that URL into an iframe. And you can see on page right now how that might look. I have this iframe loaded into the page. I can see my template here on the right. And I have now a custom user interface in order to show off to my users. Now the tools that you see on the page, the back button and the green bar on the top, that's still part of my website. Everything below it is that iframe that I've hosted Chili within. And now I've loaded a workspace, which is this interface with these variables here on the left, and then my document here in the center. For existing customers, you can see our interface looks a little different. In our V5, that 5.0 release, we're going to be updating our workspaces to not only include a few different themes, a dark theme and a light theme. We're also going to include some different button configurations for mobile devices. So we have 3 different settings that we can provide. That'd be a touch version, a regular version, and then kind of an enhanced version for mobile devices, which will increase the size of the touch buttons on the screen, increase some of the size of the panels, etc. As we know, you want some responsive design for your mobile devices. So 5.0 will have a few different kind of view intents, if you will, in order to choose from within your workspace. Now, for those who are not familiar with workspaces, you're going to see these variables here on the left. I made a conscious decision as a template builder about how to put this template together. So I've decided that I'd like to show my users some variables, and we can see these variables now in line. Can make changes to those variables in real time. So I click and change the value, we can see that my template updates on the fly. Now, for those who are not familiar with Chili, all this processing is being done on the client side. We're not an InDesign server product. We don't pass back and forth to a server to generate previews. We're actually rendering inside the browser as we go. Now, this is a big help when you talk about server draw, because we're not actually counting on the server to do every aspect of the editing. We only make a call to the server when we save a file, when we create a PDF, and when we add an image to a template. So in that case, a lot of that processing is actually being done on the server, being done on the user. And so we're taking a pull away from the user. And this is why we're able to use really one Chili license for a large number of concurrent users. Now, as our type goes, we can do a lot of things with it. We can create some rules for how to edit this. Number one, I have a phone number here. I can make a rule that when that phone number goes away, to hide certain pieces. So I can reflow my type, really make some responsive design. I can tie into some of those InDesign elements as I go. I can change color schemes by updating colors in my background. I can also turn on and turn off different layers to an end user. So I have some flexibility when it comes to creating content for my users and how we use and control the aspects of InDesign. And I can really make this thing look and feel exactly like I want to, but really the core value of Chili is not in its ability to do variables and kind of tied into a classic editor. We can actually edit straight in line if we choose to as well. And I can really choose element by element inside Chili about what users can edit, what they can't, and really give them a custom editing process as they go. Now, from a template builder, this is a much more kind of constructed, much more intuitive editing process. I can really allow a user to click into a file just like they can InDesign or Microsoft Word and really start to design their pieces. When they do click directly into their artwork, I do have some controls, A, about what fonts they use, B, about maybe font sizes, about font colors, paragraph and character styles, etc. So really full control over that content and what kind of content is going to be used and manipulated. Now, especially as we start to control content, the big fear is if a user clicks and moves content, where they're going to move it. Are they going to do bad things or improper things with it, like move it off the page or move it over other elements? Well, we do have control over that. We have some content management tools where we can actually allow users to only move within certain regions. So moving this logo only to certain parts on the page and really controlling where and how they edit the template. Now, I'm looking at this document as an end user. So as a developer, I'm seeing, oh, okay, I'm showing this document in a particular view. Well, we can look at this document at any time for demo purposes in its workspace administrator view. And this would be our admin view to basically see the complete tool. All the different settings, from document settings to images to text, etc. All the different tools that we're used to seeing in a program like InDesign, we can see here in Chili. Now, at any point, I can go ahead and take a look at my variable tools. I'm looking at this as a preview mode. I can see my source mode, see where my variables fit and how they fit into the document. I have a variable list down here too that represents, and let's say I want to go ahead and add a variable to this document. Well, at any time, I can go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and add middle name. Now I can take my text tool up at the top, click directly into this text frame that I imported from InDesign, find exactly where I'd like to put my variable, insert that variable into place. I can now go back to my preview mode, can show me where my variables are going to go in place. We can even simulate back to my end user mode. We can see that we've added an additional variable, middle name, into my form here, and I can add my middle name if I want to. So very easy to add variables, very easy to create templates, very seamless and straightforward when it comes to creating content for our end users. So, all right, at this point, if there's any questions, which I don't see on the chat, I will keep going. Now let's take our basic template that we've been working on here and let's start to apply a data element to it. So we know that users won't always just be producing one record at a time. They might be producing multiple records. So in that case, we need to give them a tool that takes a template and allows them to integrate data into it. So my business card here, I can represent a data array of multiple cards. This could be my user would like to order a collection of cards at a time. Well, I can give them an upload space where they can actually upload a CSV or an XLS that could allow them to see all the records in their data set. Now from there, they can either produce one PDF with all your records, or you can produce individual PDFs for each of those records. So I can produce an array of files for myself rather than just having to do it one by one. Now, if I don't have an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV to attach to this file, I can always attach this to a data source. You know, the data sources out there in the world. If you have a data source from your customer, if you have your own data source, you can flow that into Chili. The concept is I need to take XML information. So you'd have to compile your data as XML, feed it back to your template, and then you're able to see your data set. Got a question from the crowd. The question is, can we save data source results? Data source results are embedded into the template. So they're a collection of XML records that we store in the record locally, in the template locally. So those data source records would be saved inside the template itself. And then if you wanted to update that when it opened again, you could do that too. But essentially, whatever you see in the data source is actually embedded in the template itself. All right, good question. All right, so let's go ahead and take something away from data. Let's get into inline editing. Let's start to look at Chili from a different perspective. We understand a lot of the templates that are built out there in the market are postcards, business cards, etc. When we really start to have more editable pieces like handouts or flyers, or even brochures, bigger content that are a little bit harder to manage when it comes to variables, well, we have the ability to integrate in direct editing or inline editing in order to do so. And so a big feature of this particular document is the ability to click directly into the file. If I'd like to click directly into the file here, make some changes to it. Maybe I change this from taster to tester. I can really start editing my content directly in line. Now, because this document doesn't have variables, we have a little bit of a different workspace, and you can see that over here on the left. Well, let's talk about some of the things that we're able to do to this file or able to do with this file that maybe we couldn't do before. I see a point for language. We have some different language settings that we can provide. We don't do inline translations. However, I can update the display language for my users. So if I recognize that they're Spanish users, I can update my callouts and my warnings and all my pre-flight results to be in a different language. So I do have some language checks that I can make. If you're looking to do translations, we've done integrations with translation services. For example, if I'm producing a card in English, but I'd like to do a card in German, a lot of the translation companies that we've talked to translate directly in XML, which allows me to then take an XML file that's created on the Chili server, email it or pass it to that translation service, allow them to translate directly in the file, and then pass it back to Chili. So this allows me to now create an automated process where if I'm an end user and I create one language, I can submit it to a service, have them generate 5 different files for me in different languages, and then Chili can automatically generate new files for each of those languages. So really some automation in my creation process as I go. Now your workflow could then give a notification to your user, says, oh, your Spanish version is ready to go. Open it up, make sure your line breaks fall in the same spaces, make sure you update your imagery if you need to, and then boom, you have a new template ready. So we do have some translations that we put into place. Now version 5.0, we're going to eventually get into 128-bit fonts, which is really going to allow you to push that language barrier even farther. Right now we're at 64-bit, and that's great when it comes to most fonts, but we understand a lot of those character sets, especially for Indonesian fonts and Arabic fonts, really take more than a 64-bit depth. So in that case, if we get to 128, when we do, you'll be able to really handle all those different character sets, really handle all the glyphs and alternate characters that we can show. Now the next document that I'll show you will actually include some of those Chinese and Arabic fonts that we can already support. But in the future, our goal is to really get you completely compatible so there isn't a language or a font that you can't handle. Question is, how do you make variables like the template, which has 1, 2, 3 steps? Okay, it's a good question. So in the workspace that you see here, I can customize these panels and these buttons any way that I'd like. So in this, I've created 4 different panels inside my workspace, and I've named them anything that I'd like. So I give them a custom name. We can see in my workspace administration here, if I click on my panel options here, I can see what the name of it is, and I can see also what the content is. Now, I can display certain things within this panel for choices to my end user, and display filters and different things that I can provide. So you can create custom panels in your workspace and give custom elements to each of those panels in order to deliver it. So by creating that custom panel, that's how I can create the step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 approach that can really walk somebody through. If you're an existing customer and you'd like more information about that, on our documentation page, there is managing your workspaces, which shows you how to access these preferences and panels to make sure that you can name them and rebuild them the way that you need. All right, now working on this particular template, I have a second option for type. Now type ties into a feature in Chili called alternate layouts. Now, alternate layouts allows us to embed multiple different design options for a particular template. Like for example, we have a portrait version of this card that we're working on right now, but we also have a square version and a square with images. And we can embed those different settings or different options into the same template. And this allows me to give a user kind of a few different design options. And I think the big key here is you see this feature in use is notice as I change the different options, the copy that I originally set over here doesn't change. So it gives me a working active version of a particular template as I go. And now here, if I add in more content, I can make changes. Now, this is good if I have a portrait or landscape version, but it's even better if I'm doing a letterhead, and that letterhead has a 2-column version and a 3-column version and a 2-column with images version. It allows me to have my user find the version that means the most to them while they're currently working on the document without having to restart the whole process, be able to design this for themselves. Now, in certain layouts here, I can also include or exclude certain elements. So for example, the star element in the square version is present, but in my square with images, the star isn't present at all. So I can really make certain versions have certain aspects to that end user, allow them to really design that for themselves. All right, and the next thing we're going to go into is the ability to manage images. So obviously these templates are as good until we really want a user to be able to manipulate images for themselves. We're showing off kind of one of the main ways that images are managed by a drag and drop onto the template, and I can give them a list of images to choose from here. The other way that we can manage images are by creating image variables. So in the same way that we saw variables before in the business card, we can create a form, allow them to choose logo 1, logo 2, and then you can assign a variable to a particular frame in the document. So let's say I wanted this frame right here to contain nothing but logo 1. Well, I can do that. I can assign logo 1 to that frame and really get it to draw. Now these images right here are designed by myself. I've determined a folder on my Chili server in order to show users images to choose from. So I've decided these are the images that I like them to choose from. Now they can drag and drop into the template. Now if you choose to use your own images on your own server, you can definitely do that. You can keep all your images stored on your own location. You need to pass though Chili some information about your assets. You need to tell it where those assets are. You need to give it XML information to say what each of those assets will be plus a preview image. And then you can have a display of images to your end user. So you can keep those assets separate. You still need to create a feed that then Chili can see inside its forms and inside its workspace in order to display those images for yourself. Now, image-wise, we have a lot of compatibility. We can take on JPEGs, EPSs, PNGs, PDFs, TIFF files, AI files, and PSD files, and probably some more that I'm forgetting. The idea is that those assets are stored in your server. When you see the asset inside the template here, we're showing you a preview of that asset. Now, in our HTML version, we're going to draw a JPEG preview of it. In our Flash version, we're going to create an SWF. But in the end, we're showing you a preview of that asset. You can preview it in a high-res version, a low-res version, whatever you'd need to show it to a user. When you produce the PDF, when you produce the final file, it will pull the original asset that was used to create it and place it into the PDF. So if you're using a high-res image that's 3 gigs for some reason, you'd like to represent that to your user, well, you could show a low-res preview of it to Chili so you can help with your load time. And then in the end, your PDF will be produced with your high-end production file. And that's why we go back and say you don't need to worry about losing quality in Chili. We really produce print-ready PDFs on the back end because we want you to be able to produce the work the way that it needs to be. All right, so after we do add images, we can do some cropping to documents. We get a question every once in a while, what about creating dynamic size ads? I like to give a user a template, allow them to choose any size that they'd like to choose from and redo their file. Well, in this case, I'm showing you a very small version of that. That would be the ability to do some basic cropping on a document to resize it. But in the end, we can really create dynamically sized ads. We have the features and functions with anchors and different settings inside our templates to be able to do so. You can really create and structure a document that resizes and refits the way that you need to. So if you're interested in that, I can show you a demo another time, but really we can get into really dynamically creating ads the way that you need to for your end users. Now the final step in this particular template would be creating a PDF. Now we're going to represent creating a PDF in a little bit a different way than you probably will in your workflow. PDF output is usually tied to putting a job in a shopping cart or running a job through approval and for creation. Now to Chili doesn't have an approval process. It doesn't have any tools for approval. That's because Chili is just an editor. Usually your workflow or your e-commerce tool will have its own approval process, or even your DAM tool will. Now the idea here is that Chili can be called upon to create a PDF at any point. So let's say you are running this through your asset management software and a user creates a new version of a flyer and they'd like to get it approved by the boss. Well, you could create an approval process where a Chili template, after saved, can leave a notification to a boss to come and look at that file and then take a look at that. But again, that step is created through your asset management tool. Once Chili is then approved, you could then create a PDF, and a PDF can be created at any time through the API. So you would make a call to the Chili server to generate that final file for you and put it into production. Now, when we create PDFs, we use what's called a PDF export setting. And these are many different profiles that can be used and assigned to create the PDF that you need. Each PDF setting can contain different crop mark settings, bleed mark settings, different color conversion profiles, etc., to be able to generate that file exactly the way that you need to for the press that it's going to go on. So when I create that PDF, I use one of the profiles that we see here. Usually you wouldn't give a user all these different profiles. We're just providing you with an example. And when I generate that PDF, I can either generate the PDF locally on my machine, or I can pass that PDF to another location. I can rename it if I need to, can specify where it needs to go, etc., and really create that PDF in the manner that I need to. Question from the audience is, can the 3 alternate layouts both save as PDFs by click one-time save? So when we create the document, we save all of the alternate layouts. So those are all saved within the construction that we're working on. What we can't do is we can't output all 3 alternate layouts at the same time. Whatever alternate layout that you see is the PDF that will be generated. But whatever I do to these layouts will save in the construction that I'm looking to put. So if I put an image in one place, it'll save in that one place. But as for production, you would need to then run 3 different API calls. So in a sense, I could take this file through the API, I could generate it with one alternate layout setting, a different alternate layout setting, and thus a third alternate layout setting in order to produce a full file. We have users doing that when they're creating, for example, a letterhead and an envelope and a business card, where they can enter the variable information once. That file could have 3 different alternate layouts to show the same information 3 different ways. And then you could do an API call to generate that file 3 different ways in order to create a kit. So one great use, one template, 3 different alternate layouts, really one set of production with the right development and the right API calls. Good question. All right. So let's go away from kind of a small form inline editing. Let's really take you into the newsletter, the largest editing that we could do, multiple pages, brochures, booklets, etc. Chili is really depending on the amount of information that you load in the document. I would say we can do long form documents. If we start to get into the 75, 100 pages, we would suggest to think about the way that that document is going to be edited. Obviously, it's running in a local browser as opposed to on your local machine. So we tend to think our sweet spot is the 32 to 64 page booklet for production. In this case, I have a document open and I can now allow my user to edit any page and any element that they like with the kind of idea of a page layout program in mind. I can do text wrapping, I can do cropping on images, can pass my documents any way that I want. I can do wrapping of text from one frame to another. I can do image settings on these frames. If I'd like to choose this image and change it around, I can. We have fit modes on each of these frames. So if I don't like the fit here, I can change it to a manual fit. Then I can even move that image around too if I want to recrop it. I have all the type tools that I would expect from InDesign carried over into Chili. Like for example, if I have a character style or a paragraph style that's applied, I can now apply that same character style here to Chili for typing and for creation. So I can really give an inline editing experience to my user the same way that they would in a page layout program. Now we can see here on page 3, I do have my character sets in place, so we are definitely expanding out our character bit depth on our fonts in order to handle those. As we know, that's going to be a big feature for a lot of users, so definitely even more featured here in our version 5.0. By the way, all the pieces that you're seeing today are in the HTML5 browser. We haven't done anything in Flash yet here today, so notice the production and speed on the HTML5 browser itself. We could utilize tools like wrapping and anchoring when I'm doing edits, so I can anchor my objects to each other as I change my spacing. These objects will anchor to each other here. So as I'm changing my content will ebb and flow the way that I want it to. On our last page, we have tables. We have image wrapping between frames. If I'm working on a particular frame, I can go between columns. I can go between different text frames. I can go between elements. So really giving that end user the tools that they need. The final piece that I like to show on this particular template is the front cover. We know that designing, especially when it comes to a front cover like this, is a very creative process, not something that we want to give the casual user. Even though they can click in and edit all their type, we're worried about them designing a front cover that really means something to them. In that case, we can utilize a tool called Snippets that allows us to take maybe a few different versions, a few different Chili templates, and embed them into this Chili template to give them a few different cover options. Now, for example, if I click on this front cover, I can change the content of that front cover if I need to. And I can click and change the front cover value from September to January. I can do January 2017. Update this for the different image. Maybe change it from an image collection. Maybe change this to the bar sign. Change my copy. I want to use white instead of gray. In that case, I can really start to customize this the way that I need to. Now, once I've chosen the values for my front cover, I can then apply maybe a different design to this. If I don't particularly like this design and the way this is flowing with this white space, I can actually then take a different snippet, apply it to the document here, and we can update that front cover with a different design style. The variables stay in place. We're still using January 2017, but instead now, we're utilizing a different look and feel. Really updating that document for myself. So the way in order to embed now from a design standpoint, I can provide 10, 15, 20 different cover options here to be used in my cover. Another great use for snippets are, let's say I'm creating a brochure on the fly. I like to give my user the option to choose between one of 20 different offers that they can place into a brochure. Well, I can give them specific frames where they can drag those brochure offers to. From that collection, we can now kind of drag and drop and plug in that offer. And I could update the date with some naming conventions and really customize that for the end user. So utilizing snippets as a collection of items in order to update your templates. All right, everybody, so that takes us through general editing. I've got about 15 minutes here. I'm going to take you through some visualization tools, our 3D folding and our 3D models before the hour breaks. So I have not only a template that we build here, a trifold brochure, but we have the ability to show that trifold brochure to an end user kind of visualized for its end purpose. So I have a trifold here. I've edited it the same way, maybe changed my text, changed my images, but I can also show a user a die cut if they need to. And then I can also preview the way that this item is going to fold for them. So I can actually show them this item folded up all together so they can see how that item is going to look. Now we can preview a die cut, we can preview a fold, really helping from that packaging and finishing perspective to give them a final product. Once that product done, I can even interact with it and see it in place. Now this ties back into our packaging background. The good news is that it doesn't take a program like CAD in order to produce these files. We actually have a proprietary builder inside the Chili software that allows you to pretty easily make folding samples for your end users. We can do that on the fly. So I would say from a learning perspective, learning curve is much smaller than an CAD program. In fact, we train on a piece like this in less than a day. And you can be making half folds, brochure folds, box folds, pretty much whatever you'd need for your final product. Now, the second way that we can visualize products is not just in our folding models, but it's actually in our 3D modeling. Now, in this concept, the concept is the same. We're taking a flat template, which in this case is going to be a label. And that label is then going to be shown to a user for them to update it, customize it with their own name. But what we really want to do with this product is take that label and put it on a real product and show them how it's going to look and feel when it's actually on the product itself. Now, for that, we can import what's called collada files. And those are 3D art files produced from a program like AudiosCAD. And we can show those 3D model files with a chili template attached to it. So in this case, I can modify this beer label for myself. Can create that label and customize it. And when I'm done, I can actually then take that file, place it over top of a 3D model, and show it to my end user. We have a question for the audience. The question is, how to make a folding scheme or a 3D model like the die cut or a box or a beer model? Well, that's part of our training. We provide you and show you how to build those tools. So if you're interested in doing that, we have some great documentation on how to do so. Again, they're proprietary tools within the back office of the editor. We can show you the steps and goes, but that training is usually part of our initial training when a user buys chili, and we can definitely show you how to apply that. But in the end, if you'd like to make a 3D model, you're really going to need to bring that collada file with you. Have that either designed by a 3D artist or find a model online that you can use. But once you have that model, you import the file into the back office. You then create a schema where we take a template and modify it or model it with pairing up a template with one of the meshes or materials inside the 3D model, and then show it to the user. So a bunch of documentation on our site about how to do it, and definitely part of our initial training. Now, once this model is in place, I can show it to a user. They can interact with it. You can actually launch this preview to a user separately outside of Chili. So if I just wanted to show them a 3D preview, I could do that outside of a 3D environment or even outside of a template environment. So if you're looking to just show a 3D preview to a user, definitely possible to do so. All right, that takes us through the general kind of demo site here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me for a login and password for the Spicy Beer Company. You can check out any of these templates on your own, load them, check them out. And for existing customers too, if there's any ideas or things that you see in here as we go, you can definitely check those out. Now, for the people that are coming, existing customers that like to know a little bit more about 5.0, we really advanced our 3D previewing and modeling in a few different key ways. Product I'm showing you here is a packaged product, but we have the ability now inside of our 3D modeling to show and highlight varnishes and reflections inside of our pieces. So it's a typical label that we would see here, but instead now when I model this against a collada file, I can now simulate that lighting effect. And not only simulate the lighting effect, but I can simulate any foil stamping. You can see that on the piece itself and really start to draw in some more finishing effects for particular templates. Now with that reflection, it really creates a more lifelike situation. Now you could also use reflections and those different effects to simulate foil stamping, to simulate overcoating on your pieces, etc. And you do that by assigning a mask inside the 3D model that you're building. So if I'm working on a box, I can apply a mask that will be then converted into a reflection. So it's an element that you upload as a material inside your 3D model. And I can definitely show you guys how to do that once our version 5.0 is fully launched. Now the second feature would be an upgrade to our folding model, which is the ability to do somewhat the same that we saw in the 3D modeling. We can do varnishes, we can do foil stamping. In our folding model, we can also do embossing, which is a big step for us. In the same way, we create a mask, we assign kind of an effect to that mask that can then be applied inside the template. So particularly large files are going to take a second to load. But once this loads up, in fact, in this template, I have the ability to preview either what that emboss is going to look like. Now, that embossing is just an overlaid layer. It's just a color layer that we're applying to the piece, and the varnish is the same way too. Just showing that varnish as a layer here. But when I represent this as a 3D model, then it will actually calculate out where that emboss is going to be, where that foil stamping is going to be, and really create that piece as it is. This takes a second to render. It's rendering not only the file, but it's also rendering the emboss, and you can see that inside that logo there. About a really slight emboss there, but it's on the page. In fact, when I rotate this around, we can see the different varnish and foil stamping that we can see on the box too. And now once I fold this up, we can see that emboss too. So really trying to add more finishing capabilities to our folding model by providing even more effects. All right, so about 10 minutes left to go before the end of the presentation. We had a quick question here before I continue. Is it possible to get the admin of Spicy Beer to learn how to edit those templates? Sure. If there's any templates out that you'd like to see, ask us for those templates. We can install them on a demo server for you so you can check it out. So if you have something specific you wanted to see, the folding sample, etc., just let us know where you'd like that to be installed, the demo server and active server. We can place that file along with the folding sample along with you. So it's not possible to get the admin of the site, but we can definitely give you any of the templates for you to work on and for you to be able to see yourself. Just send us an email after we're done. Ask us to pass over the file, and we can definitely do so for you. So for our new users, I'm creating a template from scratch. How do I do so? We have a pretty easy way to do that. We're going to show you the InDesign plugin here in a second. While I'm opening up InDesign, I want to show you for the first time what our back office looks like. And this is your admin portal about where you would log in order to manage and manipulate your own values and text. This is your portal into Chili. So this would be your own login. Again, Chili's not a SaaS product, so this would be a login to your own server. I can log into my own environment. We can divide your server into multiple environments. We can do that by customer or by vertical or by section of your company. Chili has unlimited environments that you can use. And if I could type this in correctly, we wouldn't have that worry. Should probably be able to spell this properly. But Chili lets you do multiple environments, so you don't need to worry about paying every time you'd like to do a new environment for yourself or creating a new website or creating a new implementation. Our pricing model is a flat model. It's a perpetual license, so you'd have the ability to space it out as well. But if I'm in my environment now, I have the ability to pass files to that environment. We'll take a Chili business card that I have here in InDesign. I have a plugin for InDesign that allows me to connect directly to my server. We can see that same URL that I have that connects me to my back office. I can now connect directly to the server through InDesign. Now once here, I can now set up where I want that file to go, can give it a destination. We're going to call this demo. Now I'm passing in the fonts, the images, and the document itself. We don't need to upload fonts separately. We're uploading all the elements of this template at the same time. Now when I'm done, I can hit go. It'll run a quick pre-flight on my document, ask me any questions that I need to about conversion. In this particular case, I have a logo on the back of my card that needs to be converted to a PDF. Hit OK. And that'll convert that file. Now the time that it takes to upload really depends on how many pages and how complicated your file is. I would say it takes anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, depending on how complicated that template is. And the 5-minute conversion would be for a 100-page document. Really, if it's a 1-page document, I've never seen it take longer than a minute to a minute and a half. Converts that file over, packages it up just like an InDesign package, uploads it directly to your server. Now it's ready to edit. If I go into my back office here, find in my documents where my file is, we can find that folder called demo. I can now see my Chili business card that I just uploaded. When I open it up, I'm going to open it up as a template builder, as a workspace admin, ability to create that file any way that they want. Now once here, I can create and manage my variables. I can change my information in my template the way that I need to, and really start to customize this template the exact way that I really want. Now in this particular case, let's say I wanted to create some variables for this template, really push it the way that I need to, I could. Oops. And my variable data here, I can create and manage my variables. Now, I utilized a tool in InDesign called Data Merge that allowed me to create a list of variables in advance. In that case, when I imported this into Chili, my variables are already in place. And now inside my document, I can take and place my variables where I need them to go. So first name, I can place them here. Last name, I can place it here too. I can assign this frame to contain variables. Now when I go to my preview mode, I have my variables in place. And if I look at my variable settings, where my variable list is here, I can change my value and it'll update. Question from the crowd says, is the InDesign file needed to package before to, I'm sorry, didn't understand that question. Is the InDesign file needed to package before convert to Chili? You need all the elements of the InDesign file. So in this case, you're asking, do I need a package? Well, I need to have the fonts, and I need to have the images, and I need to have all the different links ready for this InDesign file. So if it's not packaged, it necessarily doesn't have those elements. Now, you don't need to create necessarily a package. So this file I just opened in InDesign, but I would need to have all those elements. So if your fonts are broken, or if your links are broken and they're, image is not present or anything else like that, you would need to do that before you convert it, because we need those assets passed over to Chili before we work on it. Once you convert it into Chili, you're breaking the link to the original file. So you're not actually utilizing that original file anymore. So in that case, we need to bring all the resources from that file onto the server for us to use. Now this template has variables inside of it. It's not necessarily done. We haven't finished the workspace, but as you can see, we've converted it over at as closest to one-to-one as we can. Now every layer that we had in InDesign is present. Every frame that we had from InDesign is present here too. So we really have a working file that we can start to customize and really build in place. Now, a lot of what you've been seeing so far today has been utilizing our internal workspace. And that is the workspace that we provide off the shelf, that look and feel that we've really built into Chili. A lot of our users actually utilize their own workspace. And the point is here is that you can take Chili as an editor and just use the editor feature. And I'm going to open up a test site or an active customer that we call My Creative Shop for a good example. Now My Creative Shop utilizes Chili, but they utilize it in a slightly different way. When I log into My Creative Shop and I'd like to create a product for myself, they're actually utilizing Chili just for the editor, but they built their own look and feel into the page in order to show how that piece is going to look. Now they've done this using HTML. So they've actually built an HTML form outside of the editor. And the difference between this page and this page is not very much. Chili exists from right under the undo and redo button down at the bottom right corner. That's the iframe on this particular integration. Here we have the full page as the iframe. So here we're utilizing the workspace off the shelf. These guys are utilizing their own. Now in our workspace, we don't have the ability to update the fonts. We don't have the ability to update the size of the panels. We can update the colors of the panels if you'd like to. You can move those panels in any places, but really it's a very straightforward integration of a workspace. Really utilizing HTML here, My Creative Shop is able to create the exact look and feel that they'd like. Now with every form, they're actually interacting with the editor right here. Every time I change a page, they're making a JavaScript call to the page that now updates the document that I'm currently working on, but they're utilizing Chili in much the same way. And even when they create a text box, they're actually just using JavaScript in order to implement that item onto the page. So really the same look and feel that we would be used to inside Chili, but just done with their own skin. Now this did take some development, this did take some research and time, but in the end, you can really make Chili look and feel the way that you like. All right, we have one more question coming out. Why do the layers change the order when updated into Chili? That was a great question. Yeah, the reason is because we think differently about layers in Chili than we do in InDesign. The idea is that we don't honor the Z index of layers inside Chili. Our Z index is all individual elements. So the order of these layers is really independent because the layer still just represents a group of items. The order is really depending on the Z index, and each item inside Chili has its own Z index. So we don't necessarily look at all the items on the front layer and say that they're above and below the back layer. The Z index of this item is completely independent. Now we honor the Z index coming in from InDesign, so you don't have to layer or reorganize your elements, but in a sense, if I wanted to move all the items on back layer together, you have to move them independently with the Z index. Good question. All right, guys, it takes us to the 3 o'clock hour and the end of the demo hour that I had. Seems like a few more questions, so I'll stay online if you guys want to ask those as we go. And definitely feel free to keep posting to the chat and ask questions. I'm going to post in the chat section my email address. And if you'd like to email me with separate questions or ask me anything specific, please feel free to do so. And then in that case, I can answer anything specific you might have about your integration, pass you any questions or documentation that you might need in order to help you in the future. Another question that came out. Yao asked, sorry, I missed some parts. I still don't know how to save 3 PDFs from one information. Yeah, how about you just email me that on the side, and I'll send you some information. So just ask me exactly about the template that you're building and what you'd like to output. I can really tell you how to get that done using alternate layouts and creation of PDF. To the rest of the crew, thank you very much for your time and interest. I hope the existing customers were able to get some more information about the product. New customers were able to see some things that they might be interested in and would like to know some more information. Please let us know. But otherwise, really, again, thank you for taking the time in the middle of your afternoon on a Thursday. This session will be recorded, so we'll pass it over. And hopefully, if you have any questions in the future, please do stay in touch. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, looks like the questions are coming down to a halt. So I'm going to log off now, keep this recording for the future, but otherwise, again, thank you very much for your time, and